how's it going? I'm Alfred with Adventure Bound Off-Road, and behind me is my wife's 2012 Jeep Wrangler JKU. So this kind of begins the phase one of the build that we're going to be doing on her Jeep. We just picked it up a couple of months ago. A couple things we're going to be doing. We're going to address the fenders. We're going to do some rock sliders. We're going to do some bumpers front and rear, both frame chops. We're going to do some trimming on the pinch well seams, and we're going to start kind of kicking it off with phase one. Then we're going to continue to phase two, doing some suspension, and after that we'll just keep rolling further and further along. So today we'll be working with the front fenders. We got the full armor package from Motobilt. It's all 3/16. It's pretty good stuff. But yeah, today we'll roll through that and stay tuned. The Motobilt fenders I decided to go with are 4 inches wide. It's made out of 3/16, and it uses countersunk locations for the mounting hardware. For the coating, I decided to do a textured black powder coat. And for the inner fender liner, I decided to go with a company called Hyline. I ended up painting the vented mesh to color match it to the color of the Jeep. So I've already gone ahead and removed all the factory plastic fenders. So next step is that we have to remove this bracket right here. Originally, this is what the plastic fenders would have tied to tie it back into the inner fender support. But because the Motobilt fenders bolts into the inner fender support and along with all the body onto the fender, it's no longer needed. And plus, by removing this little bracket, we actually gain a little bit more up travel, probably about 1 inch. So we'll go ahead and start trimming that off and then keep moving forwards. So the Motobilt 4-inch fender flare is kind of loosely mocked up. They're just utilizing 2 of the factory bolts on the inside. I'm also mocking up the Hyline inner fender. I'm just trying to see where everything's going to fit because they are 2 different companies, so they are made to work with their own products. I just like the way the Motobilt fender was, and I like the way the Hyline inner fender is. They do utilize the same holes, and the only thing I got to do for the Hyline to make that work is I'm just going to mark a hole here and drill that out on the just next to the forward body mount. Other things I'm going to go through, I'm going to paint the inner structure black to match the rest of the fender and the inner fender. And then I'm also going to come through, I'm going to trim these corners back a little bit just to make it a little bit more seamless. And then also installing the inner fenders, what we're going to do is I'm going to come back through and I'm going to install an LED marker light. Because the original fender, the stock one, had a light that was right here on the edge. It's only a marker light. It only comes on when you have your park lights on or your headlights. But I just want to retain that feature just so you can actually see the side of the vehicle at night, if at least the forward edge. And then the turn signal for JKs are incorporated in the grill. So this is just going to be a marker light, and then just going to go right into the fender flare. So I'll just drill a hole, use a step down bit. And I'll show you what you guys are going to do to actually make this plug in with the factory harness. When drilling through a sheet metal, it's just good to make yourself a little pilot hole. I am starting out with 1/8 of an inch, and then I end up going back through it a step down bit to get to the size that I actually needed for the grommet. To make the LED marker lights plug and play, I end up taking the original harness off the original marker light to the fender and using a couple butt splices and connecting the 2 together. Before I install the front fenders, I'm going to go through and install some 3M double-sided tape. It's just going to provide a little bit of a binding surface to the fender from the fender flare back onto the fender. And it's also going to help out too. It's just any debris that falls between or on top of the fender flare. It's just going to provide a barrier between the flare and the fender, just so rocks and dirt and stuff doesn't get trapped between the two. When laying down the double-sided tape, you want to make sure you can do it at one long continuous stretch and going along and pressing down hard on the tape and making sure it has a good bond to the fender. Now I'm going to go through and use a box cutter and cut all the holes so that the hardware is going to be pushed through. I went ahead and installed all the hardware for the fender except for these back two. When I install the inner fender, they're going to share those two mounting locations. Here I'm using a Dremel just to get a better fitment. When installing the inner fender, I'm going to go ahead and connect the marker light back into the Jeep harness. Hey, and there you have it, the 4-inch crusher fenders from Motobilt along with the Hyline inner fenders. The install took approximately about 3 hours, and I think that the fenders really speak for themselves. They're really tucked in close to the body, and I don't see these taking on much trail damage or getting hung up in the rocks. Keep an eye out for a later video. We still have to do the rear. We have to do a couple of things. We have to install the rib ducts for the rear, and we're going to go through and we're going to take away some of the pinch well on the forward edge of the wheel well. A real common area in JK's where the wheel would contact that, especially running anything larger than a 37. And the plan for this is to go 38. So keep an eye out for a later video, and I hope to see you then.